Job 600 formally opens.
Experts in petrochemical industry brainstorm on changing phase of sector. And in Nigeria, new refugee camp to be built for refugees who fled Boko Haram. This is News Hour on GBC24 and GTV. My name is Shirley Anan. And I'm Conrad Kakraba, and Clement Sam is doing the sign language translation.
Job 600 is formally open. This means the country's lawmakers now have their own offices and will no longer perch on the corridors of Parliament or work from their car booths.
In Accra on Friday, President John Mahama inaugurated the refurbished State House Tower Block, which is a permanent office for members of Parliament and supporting staff.
Which is just behind the Parliament House, was first commissioned in 1965 by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana. It was originally constructed by the then State Construction Corporation to serve as residential accommodation for state guests for the 1965 meeting of the Organization of African Unity. The 150-meter tall 13-story State Tower Block, popularly known as Job 600, has 252 offices for the country's lawmakers. The facility would also provide secretariats for research assistants of the MPs. The tower has a 300-seater auditorium, a gym, restaurant, a fire station, library, VIP common room, video conferencing room, banks, clinic, a church and a mosque. It has CCTV fitted in the auditoriums. It would also house the Parliamentary Training Institute. The project was undertaken by the China State Wolong Construction of Ghana Limited. At the inauguration, the minority leader, Mr. Osei Mensah-Bonsu, and Majority Leader Mr. Alban Bagbin praised successive governments of the Fourth Republic and the Speakers of Parliament for their collective contribution towards consolidating parliamentary democracy. They urged governments to provide Parliament the needed resources to maintain the structure. The Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Doa Jaho, said members of Parliament will no longer conduct their business in their car booths at the chamber, on corridors and secretariats of their leaders' offices.
I am in the process of consulting the leadership of the House and the Parliamentary Service on the possibility of naming the Job 600 building and some of the usable spaces after persons who have made significant contributions towards the consolidation of our parliamentary democracy.
President Mahama urged members as well as public office holders to be accommodative and receptive to the public, at whose expense they are in office.
These projects underscore our commitment to make investments in the provision of critical infrastructure, equipment and logistics for the smooth running of vital institutions. We do this in furtherance of our belief that strong institutions form the building blocks on which we can build our democracy.
The leadership of Parliament presented a plaque to President Mahama.
The president's campaign train tagged Changing Lives, Transforming Ghana stopped at Bolgatanga, the regional capital of the Upper East region, as part of his educational tour on internal party politics. The ruling NDC just postponed its primaries from the 7th to 21st of this month, and there are vigorous campaigning by candidates. The NDC is urging clean campaign and effective grassroots mobilization from now till November next year, when the next general elections will be held. Napoleon Atikito reports.
There is something about the Upper East region politically, which the ruling NDC says it is determined to build upon. The party won about 68% of the Upper East votes in the last elections. Unlike some regions considered strategic electorally to the NDC, where the NDC has been specific about projections, the president only made a generic statement about what he expects from the region in his re-election bid, saying it will be a massive win in this region While in the regional capital Bolgatanga, the president, Mr. John Mahama, and his wife Lodina inspected expansion works at the regional hospital. In the three regions in the north, Tamale and Bolgatanga have seen existing health facilities rehabilitated and expanded, while Wa gets a new one. Once facilities are upgraded like the current works at Bolgatanga, it becomes a referral center and relieves pressure, especially on Tamale. This is good for emergency cases, the medics point out. The president and his team, that also included his chief of staff, Mr. Julius Debra, also met with the Upper East Regional House of Chiefs, whose president is Naba Sigri Baewong. Among the items listed for state intervention or attention by the traditional rulers were roads, additional facilities for the House of Chiefs, regional security, and chieftaincy succession. A delicate chieftaincy crisis in the country has been at Boko in the region, and chiefs commended the state for its role in stabilizing the situation. From here, the president and his wife, accompanied by party executives, met with party supporters at the Bolga Girls Secondary School. The Changing Lives, Transforming Ghana campaign slogan of the party was loudest here. NDC's General Secretary, Mr. Johnson Esidun Ketia, spoke about internal party politics.
We beg you, this is a process of renewal. We are not saying that retain your MPs by all means. But we are saying that if they are going to fall, let them fall not because of lies or anything.
President Mahama said emergency power being brought in to save the energy crisis will top 1,000 megawatts in the next several months.
In the next few months, we'll have about 1,000 megawatts of power coming into the system. And to just give you the scale of that, yeah, Akosombo Dam, that big Akosombo Dam is 1,020 megawatts. And it took so many years to put in the Akosombo Dam. In months, we're putting in almost one Akosombo of emergency power in order to solve the Dumso problem.
President Mahama perhaps made his forceful comments yet about the raging debate on the voters' register.
How can you be saying Ghanaians want this? Which Ghanaians are you talking about? We want the majority in this country. We can speak on behalf of Ghanaians. But anytime they put a statement and the media panders to them, anytime they put a statement, it says the majority, so they are interviewing the General Secretary. They say, oh, but why don't you want a new register? It looks Ghanaians want a new register. Who are Ghanaians? Oh, so NDC people are not Ghanaians. We want the majority in this country. We can say Ghanaians want this. And so, Patapa is not going to have their way. It is the duty of the Electoral Commission to decide on voters' registers. And we must have respect for the institutions of democracy.
He said the IMF has given Ghana a clean bill of health in phase 1 of its program. He argued that the NDC stands for a progressive rollout of free education. According to the president, starting the free education at one go without the necessary classroom space to absorb the backlog of frustrated students will make little meaning. The president said the Ghana Youth Employment Agency will kickstart in 2016, employing some 100,000 youths from the first year. Napoleon Atukitu reporting.
Experts in the petrochemical industry have met in Accra to brainstorm on the changing face of especially the downstream of the sector. This is expected to reposition players to weather the storm that may arise in a business that is highly volatile in nature. Vice President Kwesi Mr. Arthur, who opened the conference, hinted of a policy being formulated to increase the use of liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, and ensure its safety. Unto has more.
Though Ghana's petrochemical industry is young and still burgeoning, it is not immune to the price volatility. that it suffers locally and on the international market. Economic managers have arguably learned fast, especially from the long-held practice of subsidizing when petroleum prices peak on the international market, and have taken a rather painful decision of subsidies withdrawal that has yielded the clearing of budget deficit, while Nigeria, for instance, still owes some $40 billion in subsidies. Again, the petroleum sector has been deregulated, leading to an efficient market, moderate margins, and increased competition to the benefit of the consumer. But the National Petroleum Authority says it has set benchmarks to check infiltration of substandard petroleum products in a liberalized market.
We inject for every tanker that will leave a tank farm at Tema or anywhere in Ghana. Before your tanker leaves, we will have injected a dye in it. So the dye would give it a particular color. So that when you now go and discharge at your filling stations, we will come on a random inspection. And we have our own instruments. Immediately we dip that instrument, it can tell us whether you have failed, whether it's a suspect, or whether it's a pass.
Finance Minister Seth Terkper alluded Ghana's current program with the IMF to the disruption of gas supply from Nigeria and the fall in price of commodities like gold, cocoa, timber and oil.
An estimate of 4.5 billion Ghana cedis expected from the industry was trimmed to about 2.3 billion. This is the fiscal impact of the global environment that was printed, for us. It is huge. And for as long as there hasn't been a recovery, this year's budget would have to contend with the falling crude oil price. But it also means that the industry has to be efficient.
Vice President Kwesi Mr. Arthur underscored the wisdom behind government's decision to liberalize the industry, which excludes residual and premix fuels to cushion poor segments of the population.
We are currently developing a national policy on LPG that aims to streamline national activity in LPG production, in transportation, and the use in a safe and standardized market. The government's plan is for increasing LPG use in the country to ensure that in about 5 years, in the year 2020, at least 50% of Ghanaians have access to liquefied petroleum gas. Our expectation is that the private sector will invest in new LPG infrastructure to increase access and availability of the product to consumers, especially in rural areas.
He also asked local players in the downstream of the petrochemical industry to take advantage of government's move to expand access to LPG in the next 5 years and set up refuel stations. The forum is the first of its kind, which aimed at engendering a vibrant industry. Muto, GBC24, Accra.
Many years ago, Atimpoku in the eastern region was bustling with economic activity, but today, the once vibrant business hub is a pale shadow of its former self due to the closure of the Adomi Bridge for rehabilitation works. All economic activities are now centered in Senche, where the ferry transports vehicles and passengers. Our reporter, Winifred Efum, was at Atimpoku and has filed this report.
Before the Adomi Bridge was closed, this area was a transit point for drivers and passengers in Atimpoku. Hawkers cashed in because the area served as a rest stop before the vehicles crossed the Adomi Bridge. The people of Atimpoku are mainly peasant farmers, but due to the economic prospects during the era of the bridge, most of them started trading at this transit point. This is present-day Atimpoku. The secretary to the Benkum stool of Atimpoku, Mr. Ben Boafo, told GBC24 rerouting transportation over the Volta River has affected Atimpoku badly.
To be frank, the whole economic affairs in this town is totally down. Both economic and social, everything is affected. Because I compel some of even the traders over here to move to stay at the other place where we have the Pantu.
A trader, Miss Regina Nadute, recounts the times of old at this transit point.
Sales so far have been slow today. I am hoping it will change by nightfall.
Sometimes say let me turn abulon to say 300 and I say 4. Now say then I say by say turn 5 cities. 1,003 cities. The hoodie.
As of now, economic activities are at Sinchi. This is because there are 2 ferries, FC Sinchi and FC Akradi, that have taken over the duties of the Adome Bridge. Therefore, almost all the traders from Atimpoku have relocated to Sinchi for their day-to-day activities. Unlike Atimpoku, when the vehicles stop for passengers to rest and eat, here at Sinchi, passengers have to sit in the vehicles whilst they wait to get on the ferry. In situations where there are no long queues of waiting cars, traders have no choice but to run after the cars. They tell us selling here is not as easy as at Timpoku.
At Senche, we have to run after the vehicles. You see, I'm out of breath. I can't even speak.
When traders are not able to make any sales before the vehicles get on board the ferry, they disregard the no hawking sign on the ferry and jump on board to sell, whilst the ferry is en route to the other end of the river. There also, another group of hawkers are busy with cars, also waiting to get on the next ferry. The ferry operators sometimes have a hard time regulating the activities of the traders, as most of them throw caution to the wind when they are trading on the ferry. To be allowed to stay on the ferry and continue hawking, the traders have to tidy up the ferry after every journey. Passengers who board the ferry pay 50 pesos. Saloon cars 6 cedis, 4x4 8 cedis, Sprinter 10 cedis, while Metro Mass and tipper trucks also pay 12 cedis. Traders say sanitation is virtually non-existent. There
is no place of convenience around here.
When traffic slows down, the 2 ferries dock until traffic builds up again before they move. This, we are told, is to help save fuel. Before the arrival of both ferries on the river, there was no economic activity at Sinchi and the other villages dotted around the river. Therefore, the activities of the ferries are a big relief to the people.
In the past, we used to fetch water and fry 1 man 1,000, but because of the ferry, we now have good business.
The captain of FC Sinchi, one of the ferries on the river, is Mr. Felix Ponte. He told us the ferry will be dismantled and taken to another area, probably the Afam Plains, when works on the Adome Bridge is complete. One cannot visit this area without tasting their favorite local delicacy, 1 man 1,000 and abolo. For now, Atimpoku is off the economic scene, while Sinchi has come to the fore. Perhaps the tide may turn in favor of Atimpoku again when the Adome Bridge is restored to its glory. Winifred Afum, GBC24, Atimpoku.
The Secretary General of the People's National Convention, Mr. Bernard Mona, has filed his nomination to contest as PNC chairman.
Under my chairmanship, we will have a newspaper that ventilates the views of the PNC and happenings in the PNC. We shall ostracize those who will go on campaign against the party and still think that they can continue to be members of our party. And under my chairmanship, we are going to specialize in 30 constituencies so that we can win 36 in parliament.
Thank you.
I am convinced that it is because we do not put resources at the disposal of our candidates and we spread our resources thin into 275 constituencies, we end up with 1.
As Ghana prepares to go to the polls next year, There have been concerns about how to improve electoral participation to further the country's growing democracy. Research shows that many voters, especially in developing countries, lack adequate information to make informed choices in elections. A conference in Accra has brought together researchers from around the world to share ideas on how to improve electoral participation.
In democracies, the choices which majority of the electorate make determine the crop of leaders that make up the government of a country. The information voters get is seen as key in influencing their choices. However, evidence suggests that voters lack information to evaluate the suitability of candidates in elections. Experts say providing this type of information to voters can help them make more informed decisions and can also create platforms for engagement in political issues. In Sierra Leone, the researchers found that publicly broadcast debates increased citizens' political knowledge and the alignment of their votes with their policy preferences. It was also found that politicians increased campaign expenditure in areas where debates were broadcast. Also, elected candidates who participated in debates spent a greater percentage of funds allocated to their constituencies in verifiable development projects. A study in Benin showed that hosting town hall meetings to debate policy issues changed voting patterns but did not affect voter turnout. Studies from India, Brazil and the US indicate that providing voters with information has a positive impact on voter turnout as well as increase in the share of votes for better performing incumbents. At a conference in Accra, participants from different research institutions around the world shared findings from countries. They also deliberated on lessons learned from the evidence and considered ways of improving participation in the electoral process. A research officer at the Center for Democratic Development CDD Ghana, Regina Oforiwa Amanfo, made some suggestions to improve electoral participation.
We documented all the promises by the candidates, and then after elections we put them into flyers and then we submitted it to the successful candidates. That is those who were able to get to parliament. And then they started coming back to us. No, this one we did not say it. We didn't say this we will do. Fortunately for us, we documented, we actually recorded. So we hand over a recording to them for them to listen to. Then they are just back there, they can't come back. So we did a follow-up program where we bring citizens again to find out from their MPs, that is after 2 years, find out what the MP has been able to achieve on the promises that he or she gave to their constituents. And I tell you, it was amazing. And it ties in with the issue that some voters are not well educated. So when you give them information, are they able to disseminate the information? Are they able to discern, to actually use the information?
An associate professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology School of Management, Dr. Tavneet Suri, said it is important voters are given adequate information to better participate in the electoral process.
Information can be very valuable as long as it's credible, it's accurate, and if you're setting up expectations through this information, you need to make sure the expectations are met. But in those circumstances, information can be a very valuable part of voter decisions and therefore voter turnout and participation in elections. I think as Ghana approaches their election coming up next year, we encourage members of civil society and the media and NGOs and electoral commissions themselves to try to improve the information environment and provide accurate, credible information to citizens as they come in to vote.
The African Policy Outreach Conference hopes to facilitate discussions on how to implement the findings in different contexts, particularly in the lead-up to elections in Ghana and other West African countries.
This is News Hour on GBC24 and GTV.
We have business coming up after the break. Please stay with us.
My pleasure to come your way with the latest from the world of business. This package is brought to you by EcoBank, Airtel, and Hisense. The second edition of the African SME Summit, christened Dreaming Africa, is underway in Accra. The 3-day summit seeks to offer small and medium-scale enterprises in Ghana the opportunity to learn from industry players, understand modern business trends, and how to put in place strategies to grow their business.
The contribution of small and medium-scale enterprises, SMEs, have been described as the main engines that grow the various economies around the world. SMEs account for the highest number of registered companies in every economy. This makes them important players in national development. But the sector is faced with a number of challenges affecting their growth and productivity. These include the lack of blueprint to spell out the entire vision and objectives of the business, lack of proper bookkeeping and planning, lack of capital for expansion, among others. This is why the African SME Summit was instituted 2 years ago to create the platform for industry players and young entrepreneurs to meet and share ideas on how to transform an SME into a global business. This year's summit has the theme Dreaming Africa. The summit is expected to empower and offer SMEs with essential business knowledge and suitable solutions to increase their productivity, drive efficiency, and increase growth. The Chief Executive of Global Media Alliance, Mr. George Boatin, spoke about the importance of the role of the central government to build the infrastructure that will make the private sector thrive. The Director General of the National Development Planning Commission, Dr. Nimoy Thompson, said the NDPC has incorporated some policies in the 40-year National Development Plan to facilitate businesses' growth, especially for young entities.
The National Infrastructure Plan, which we believe will really transform the infrastructure landscape of this country, create jobs for 20, 30 years on end. Because once it's launched, we are talking, for instance, about over 4,000 kilometers of rail lines that will go through every regional capital in this country. Currently, we have just 600. In the 1970s, we actually had 900 kilometers of rail, and it's now down to 600. And most of that 600 doesn't work anyway. Accra Kumasi is dead. But we intend to revive them as part of the long-term national development plan.
The Executive Director of African SME Foundation, Yao Asamoah, said the platform will give players the needed experience and the network to help them grow their businesses.
The AU recently launched the 2063 Vision for Africa. Do we understand it? Is it ambitious enough? Would it take us to the next stage? Will we be key stakeholders in the world in 2050? Those are the issues we are asking. And basically what we are saying is Africa's growth development or model is going to be different from the rest of the world. It has to be driven by private sector. If we rely so much on our governments and politics to take the way, it might probably not happen.
Over the next 3 days, more than 20 speakers from high-end businesses will share their knowledge and skills on how to transform a startup into a big business.
Dizengov Ghana, a leader in agro-technology and product, has introduced a 100% organic fertilizer, Tekamin Max, onto the Ghanaian market. Tekamin Max is an environmentally friendly natural fertilizer which ensures better yields in quantity and quality. Manufacturers of the product, Agritechno, say Tekamin Max has been tried and tested in 50 countries.
Dizengov Ghana remains at the forefront of Ghana's ever-developing agricultural sector, making use of modern technologies such as irrigation, greenhouse and fertilizer. The company deals in high-quality seeds and high-quality agrochemicals in tandem with the company's vision to serve the Ghanaian farmer with environmental and financially friendly agro products. Dizengov Ghana, together with Agritechno, have introduced Tekamin Max onto the Ghanaian market. Tekamin Max is a liquid bionutrient with a high concentration of L-amino acids. This gives plants the strength to grow. At the official launch of the product, the Director General, Agric Division of Dizengov Ghana, Costanzo Garello, said the introduction of Tekamin Max is part of a campaign to promote organic fertilizer in the country.
One problem in using fertilizers may be not the correct use but the abuse. And of course, if you abuse of inorganic or chemical fertilizer, we may have problems. If we abuse of products like Tekamin Max, we have problem only on our pocket, but we will not have any problem on the farm or the environment.
In an interview, the branch manager of Dizengov Ghana explained the mode of application of the product.
Because it's for vegetative growth and preconditions the plant for flowering, what it does is immediately you plant and you see some leaves coming. That is when you apply Tekamen Max. Okay. Now, during the latter stage, when you are getting ready for the plants to flower, you also use Tekamen Max. Now you combine it with the flower induction product or fertilizer to give it more boost and more help to flower, and also reduce the flower abortion of the plant.
He assured farmers of increased yield and quality with Tekamen Max.
Tekamen Max, once you use it, it guarantees your quality of the yield and the increased yield.
Tekamen Max is currently present in 50 countries on 4 continents. Manufacturers say the product can be used on any crop, including vegetables. Dizengoff hopes to make Tekamen Max a household name in the agrochemical industry.
We'll go straight to the Western region, where Western Diamond Cement, an affiliate of the Diamond Group, has officially introduced to the business community its product under the brand name Diamond Cement. The chairman of the Diamond Group, Mr. Manubai Patel, said the company is poised to make a mark in the industry.
The Diamond Cement Group, which currently has manufacturing plants at Bupe in the northern region, Aflao in the Volta region and Bokro in the western region, has a total capacity of 3.5 million metric tons per year. The group also gives direct employment to 600 Ghanaians and indirect jobs to 4,000 others. Western Diamond Cement Plant has Ghana's first vertical plant to produce higher cement grade 42.5R and 32.5R to meet the requirements of the construction industry. The MP for Ahanta West, Mr. George Abuaji, said that the presence of the Diamond Group in the western region is an indication the future of the youth is bright, and made a strong case on the need for the people of the area to be given employment opportunities. The chairman of the Diamond Cement Group, Mr. Manubai Patel, who launched the product, said the group is ready to partner Ghana in her development agenda. He assured customers the company has adopted best practices in the industry.
We at Western Diamond Cement Limited will like to join hands with you in this cause of national development. A business venture is successful when its customers are completely satisfied with its product and services, hereby bringing a new customer, which will enable us to grow together.
Some customers and distributors of the company, during an open forum, raised concerns on corporate social responsibility, environmental impact, quality of the product, and the burden of transportation. In response, the quality assurance manager of Western Diamond Cement, Mr. BYK Raju, explained that the company is working with all the requisite regulatory authorities to ensure compliance with all laws and regulations.
Go over to the interbank market, where the dollar is trading at 3 cedis 79 pesos, the pound at 5 cedis 77 pesos, and the euro at 4 cedis 12 pesos. We also get latest price of gold, cocoa, and oil on the international commodities market. News Hour continues shortly after this break. Stay with us.
Welcome to the health segment. The Ghana Medical Association has recommended the establishment of hemodialysis units in all regional hospitals and the expansion of the renal transplant program at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. According to the GMA, it is important to improve the management of kidney diseases in Ghana to help provide adequate health care to the over 1,000 chronic kidney diseases patients nationwide.
Chronic kidney disease is a health condition that damages the kidneys and decreases their ability to function properly. Diabetes and blood pressure are the main causes of chronic kidney disease. Although early detection and treatment often keeps the disease from getting worse, progression of the disease may lead to kidney failure, which requires dialysis or a transplant. In Ghana, the prevalence rate of chronic kidney disease is 15%. According to statistics from the Ghana Kidney Association, over 10,000 patients have kidney failure and 500 chronic kidney disease patients are on dialysis. To minimize the numbers and help prevent the increase of chronic kidney diseases in the country, the Ghana Medical Association, for its 57th Annual General and Scientific Conference, focused on ways to improve the management of kidney diseases in Ghana. Explaining the strategies mapped out for effective kidney management, the immediate past president of the Ghana Kidney Association, Dr. Dromwa Edu, said it is imperative to develop community engagement strategies to educate the public about causes and effective management of chronic kidney diseases.
Government should consider providing some subsidy for patients who are on dialysis, because I think the plight is really sad, and particularly if they're transplantable. And South Africa does this, so if you're transplantable, you come into dialysis, government will maybe pay for 6 months with the hope that you have a transplant. And kidney transplantation in the longer term is a cheaper option for individuals needing end-stage renal failure treatment. We should look towards expanding the current transplant program at Kolebu Hospital in order to provide the capacity to do more transplants.
Dr. Kwabna Opukwe-Dusei, president of the Ghana Medical Association, also highlighted that the number of kidney cases recorded at the hospitals is gradually becoming unbearable. The Ghana Kidney Association, for its part, has established a renal registry to support the planning, delivery and evaluation of dialysis and transplant services in Ghana. The GMA at the end of the conference awarded some health professionals for their contribution to healthcare delivery in Ghana.
My Body, My Rights is Amnesty International's global campaign on sexual and reproductive rights. It was launched in 2014, urging all to support the fight against sexual and reproductive rights abuse in society. Amnesty International Ghana has adopted a participatory approach to dialogue with targeted groups across the country. The campaign team has interacted with partners at Abisim in the Bunafu region.
Amnesty International's meeting with the identifiable groups in the Bunahafu region was to step up efforts to promote and protect sexual and reproductive rights of individuals, including adolescents and young people. The director of Amnesty International Ghana, Mr. Lawrence Amensu, told GBC24 that the campaign for sexual and reproductive rights protection, if successful, can improve overall health, enhance personal relationships, and help to achieve gender equality and empowerment.
Our approach to this campaign is to go to schools where we can capture the young ones who are in the adolescent age, for them to be trained and for them to get education on sexual issues.
Some participating students were happy with the invaluable information shared. They promised to share with their peers.
Knowing much about sexual reproductive rights, I think I can spread it and then explain properly to my colleague.
I'll be able to gain more knowledge and explain more things to my fellow ladies or girls around.
As it continues with this campaign, Amnesty International says it will organize more interactions to achieve its objectives.
We have more news coming up. Please stay with us.
News: a new refugee camp with 2,500 temporary homes is being built in Nigeria's northeastern city of Maiduguri for a few of the hundreds of thousands of refugees there who fled the Boko Haram uprising. The camp will house refugees occupying public schools, allowing classes to resume hopefully next month. Hundreds of thousands of children have not been to school for more than 18 months in Maiduguri and elsewhere in northeast Nigeria, where authorities closed all schools as they were targeted by the Islamic insurgents. Public grounds and compounds of mosques and churches also provide refuge. Some Nigerian officials have said there are about 200,000 refugees in Maiduguri. Doctors Without Borders put the number at 1 million in August, with hundreds arriving each week. The UN agencies for refugees and children are building the camp along with Borno state government to house about 20,000 people. At least 20,000 people have died in the 6-year-old insurgency. We'll be back with sports. In sports news, the gallant national women's cricket team have returned from the Gambia. They finished third at the just-ended African Northwest Cricket Invitational, which was Ghana's first competitive outing for the national women's team.
For the first time, Ghana participated in an international female cricket competition. The tournament, dubbed the Northwest Africa Cricket Council Women's Tournament, came off in the Gambia from the 25th of October to November 1 this year. After battling Cameroon, Nigeria, Mali, Morocco and Sierra Leone, Ghana finished third. In celebrating their feat, the playing body and the technical team have paid a courtesy call on the boss of the National Sports Authority. The Director General, Mr. Joe Penge, congratulated the girls.
I believe we are all aware of misgivings, especially in the press, about our national teams who compete in various tournaments and not having their expectations met. Let me say that all these are due to the financial challenges we are facing as a nation. So please don't be discouraged if what you expected us to do for you we've not been able to do. We'll strive and see where else we can get our act together and put our hopes on, so that when you attend these tournaments, you will be fairly satisfied with what appreciation we show to you when you have also played your part in bringing us trophies like you have done today.
The captain, Rahida Amanfo-Fori, and the best player of the competition, Ellen Utuasante, shared their experience.
We really fought hard, but the situation was we couldn't go together. 9 went there and the other joined later, so we couldn't play. The 9 played the first 3 matches, so the rest joined the other team so that we could play the other matches. It was though tough, but we fought.
If we should have camped for, let's say, a month, like we bring the cup to Ghana, but it was a little time that we camped, but still we were able to bring this trophy back, so they should expect more from us.
The GCA says the exposure gained from the tournament will boost efforts to develop girls cricket in the country.
Welcome to the Arts and Entertainment segment. Ghanaian-born UK-based musician Fuse ODG is Africa's best musician at the Music of Black Origin Mobile Awards. The artist is reigning supreme after beating some of Africa's biggest names in music to win the coveted prize for the third time since 2013. In his acceptance speech, the Antenna Hits singer thanked the various artists in Africa who are working hard to put the continent on the map. The 2015 Mobile Awards came with the glitz and glamour that black music is known for. Music of Black Origin Awards is organized to honor artists who have excelled over the years.